A detailed summary and reflection on Karna Parva, the Book of Karna, the 2 days of command by the sun's son, the fierce clashes with old rivals, the weight of curses and promises, the revelation of secrets, and the tragic end of a warrior bound by loyalty and. Karna Parva is the 8th major book of the Mahabharata. It has 69 sections and 4,964 verses. This book covers the 2 days of the war when Karna leads the Kaurava army as commander, days 16 and 17. Karna fights with great power and courage. He leads the Kauravas to many moments of strength but faces his own end before those 2 days are finished. The book shows his battles against the Pandavas, his painful exchanges with his charioteer Shalya, the release of deadly weapons, and the moment when the truth of his birth is finally out in the open. It ends with his death at Arjuna's hands. Karna Parva is full of fierce fighting, old grudges, and deep sadness. It shows how one man's whole life of struggle and loyalty leads to a heroic but tragic close. The story starts right after Drona's death on day 15. The Kauravas are broken. Duryodhan gathers the remaining leaders and looks around the room. He asks who will lead now. Karna steps forward. He says he will take command. He promises to kill Arjuna and end the war. Duryodhan agrees without hesitation and makes Karna the new Senapati. Karna feels something settle in him. He has waited for this moment his whole life, the chance to prove himself without Bhishma's shadow over him, without anyone questioning his right to stand where the greatest warriors stand. He tells the army to fight hard. The soldiers cheer because Karna is famous for his skill and his open hand. But deep inside Karna knows the odds. He knows what the field looks like after 15 days. He knows the Pandavas have Krishna. He fights on anyway. The Pandavas know exactly how dangerous Karna is. They have known it since the tournament in Hastinapura where he first appeared and matched Arjuna arrow for arrow. Krishna guides them through the 2 days. The fighting is intense. The field is slick with blood from 15 previous days of war. Heroes fall. Conches sound and cut the air. The book gives you the heat of all of it. But it also gives you the inside of Karna, his inner struggle, the things he knows that others do not, the promises he carries and the curses that are slowly catching up to him. Karna Parva teaches about fate and the choices a person makes inside it. Karna chooses loyalty to Duryodhan when he could have chosen otherwise. But curses planted long before the war come due exactly when he can least afford them. It shows how one promise made by the side of a river can save 4 lives and cost your own. The book holds heroism and tragedy together in the same hand and does not let go of either. After Drona dies on day 15, the heart goes out of the Kaurava camp. Duryodhan gathers whoever is left of the senior warriors and looks at them in the firelight. He needs a commander. He needs someone who can still believe the war can be won. Karna steps forward and says he will do it. He will take command. He will kill Arjuna. He will end this. Duryodhan holds his friend's hands and agrees. A ceremony is performed. Water is poured over Karna's hands as a blessing. The remaining Kaurava warriors feel something stir in them. If anyone can turn this around, it is Karna. Karna organizes the army with care. He places the strongest kings where they are needed most. He walks among the soldiers and speaks to them about courage and about what they are fighting for. He reminds them of their oaths. He reminds them that the war is not over. The soldiers who listen to him stand a little straighter afterward. This is what Karna does to people. He lifts them. He has always lifted people. It is one of the finest things about him, and the book makes sure you see it before the end comes. Before the war began, in the quiet before everything broke open, Kunti went to find Karna. She found him by the river at dawn, doing his daily prayers to the sun. She stood and waited until he finished. Then she told him the truth she had been carrying since before he was old enough to hold a bow. She told him he was her son, born before her marriage, placed in a basket on the river because she was young and afraid and did not know what else to do. She asked him to come to the Pandavas. She asked him to stand with his brothers. Karna listened to all of it. Then he told her quietly that Radha was his mother. Adhirtha was his father. They were the ones who pulled him out of the river and raised him and loved him and never once made him feel like he was less. He would not turn against Duryodhan, the one person who had given him a throne and a name when the whole world was busy laughing at his birth. He would not do it. But he gave Kunti something. He told her he would not kill Yudhishthir, Bhima, Nakula or Sahadev. He would only fight Arjuna. When it was over, Kunti would still have 5 sons. Either Arjuna would kill Karna or Karna would kill Arjuna. Either way, 5 sons. Karna keeps this word throughout the 2 days of his command. On day 16 he defeats Yudhishthir, drives him back, has him at his mercy, and then lets him go. He tells him to go back to the camp and not come in front of him again. On day 17 he defeats Bhima in close fighting and spares him too. He spares Nakula. He spares Sahadev. Each time he reminds them of why. He tells them he is keeping a promise made by the river at Sunrise. This is Karna's honor showing itself in the middle of a war. He keeps his word to his enemy's mother even when keeping it costs him the battle. It also costs him something harder to name, the peace of a man who knows he is fighting his own brothers and will not stop. The same days that Karna spares the Pandav brothers are the days his sons die. War does not balance its accounts kindly. Vrishsena, Karna's eldest son, fights with real skill and real bravery. He wounds Arjuna's horses. Arjuna respects what he sees in the boy but does not hold back. He shoots Vrishsena down in a direct duel. Karna sees it happen from across the field. He does not stop fighting. He shouts. His heart breaks inside his chest. He keeps moving. Bhima kills another of Karna's sons with his make before the day is out. Nakula kills a third with his sword. They fall one after another and Karna watches each one go and fights on. This is what his promise to Kunti costs him in the most personal way possible. He spares 4 men who are fighting him so that a mother who abandoned him can sleep at night, and while he does that his own sons are being killed on the same field. There is no comfortable way to hold this. The Mahabharata does not try to make it comfortable. It just shows it plainly and lets you sit with it. The moment Bhima has been waiting for since the day he made his oath comes on day 16. He made the promise in the assembly hall when Dushasana dragged Draupadi in by her hair and tried to strip her in front of everyone and laughed while he did it. Bhima stood there in chains of protocol and helplessness and said the words out loud. He said he would tear open Dushasana's chest with his hands and drink his blood. Everyone heard it. Dushasana heard it. He laughed at that too. He is not laughing now. They meet on the battlefield and Bhima comes at him like something that has been held back for 13 years and is no longer held back. Dushasana fights. He is not a coward and he is not without skill. He shoots arrows and he holds his ground for longer than most men would against what is coming at him. But Bhima is not fighting like a man calculating odds. He is fighting like a man finishing something. There is a difference and everyone on the field can feel it. Bhima reaches him. He pulls Dushasana from his chariot with his bare hands and throws him to the ground. The fight goes out of it at that point. This is no longer a duel. Bhima puts his knee into Dushasana's chest and takes his arm and tears it from the shoulder. The sound of it crosses the field. He holds the arm up. Then he does what he said he would do in the assembly hall. He opens the chest but does it slowly. He does it in front of both armies. When he is done, he stands up and says out loud that the taste is not as good as he imagined for 13 years. He says nothing else. The battlefield goes quiet in a way it has not gone quiet all day. Warriors who have been doing terrible things to each other since dawn stand still and do not speak. Even Duryodhan, watching from a distance, does not speak. He has just watched his favorite brother die the death Bhima promised him in public years ago, and he could not stop it, and he cannot look away from it either. Bhima walks back toward the Pandav side. He does not look triumphant. He looks like a man who has carried something very heavy for a very long time and has finally set it down. Whether he feels lighter or emptier, the Mahabharata does not say. It shows you the act and leaves the feeling to you. Bhima wonders whether he has become what he hated the most. He does not look peaceful. He is not very happy about what he just did. Draupadi takes a long breath, sigh of relief. She too looks like someone who has carried something very heavy for a long time and finally sat it down. The oath that began in humiliation closes here in the mud of Kurukshetra, and the closing of it is not clean, and it was never going to be. Before Karna takes command, Duryodhan goes to Shalya, the king of Madra, and asks him to drive Karna's chariot. He flatters Shalya with everything he has. He says, "You are the equal of Krishna. Only you can handle horses the way Krishna handles them for Arjuna." Shalya is proud and skilled, and he believes it. He agrees. But there is something Duryodhan does not know or chooses not to think about. Shalya's loyalties are not as clean as they look. Yudhishthir had found Shalya before the war and spoken with him. He asked Shalya, "If you end up driving Karna's chariot, to weaken him with words." Shalya agreed. He tells Duryodhan he will drive, but he will speak freely. Duryodhan, wanting Shalya too much to refuse the condition, agrees. So Karna goes into the most important 2 days of his life with a charioteer who has already promised someone else to undermine him. Shalya drives well. He is skilled and the horses are in good hands. But from the moment the chariot moves, he begins to talk, and what he says is meant to cut. Shalya starts on day 16 and does not stop. He calls Karna a Sutaputra, son of a charioteer, not fit to stand in the same field as Arjuna. He praises Arjuna's birth, his lineage, his skill. He compares Karna to a crow and Arjuna to a swan. He says Karna will lose. He says it again. He finds new ways to say it every hour. Karna gets angry. He tells Shalya to focus on driving and leave the fighting to him. Shalya keeps going. During the duel with Arjuna, he leans close and says Arjuna is like a lion and you are a jackal. Karna's aim shakes for a moment. His focus fractures. This is Shalya keeping his promise to Yudhishthir. His weapon is not a bow. It is his voice. And it works. Not because Karna is weak, but because a man carrying as much as Karna carries, the grief of his dead sons, the knowledge of who his brothers are, the weight of 15 days of war, the curses slowly activating in his body, is not invulnerable to someone dripping poison in his ear from 6 inches away. The torment adds to everything else. It shows that a charioteer's words can change a battle just as surely as an arrow can. On day 17, Karna and Arjuna finally face each other in the duel that the whole war has been building toward. In the middle of it, Karna reaches for the Nagastra, a snake arrow that carries inside it the spirit of Ashwasena, a serpent who has been waiting for this moment for years. Ashwasena's mother was killed by Arjuna's arrows during the burning of the Khandwa forest long before the war began. He hid himself inside Karna's quiver and waited. When the arrow is released, it flies straight and fast toward Arjuna's neck, guided by Ashwasina's hatred. Krishna sees it coming. He presses his foot down on the floor of the chariot with a force that drives it into the earth just enough to lower the whole frame. The arrow hits Arjuna's crown instead of his throat. The crown falls to the ground. Arjuna is unharmed. He looks at what just happened and understands immediately. He shoots 6 arrows into the sky and kills Ashwasena before the snake can circle back. Karna watches. The Nagastra is gone. Krishna sits back up and says nothing. He does not need to. This moment shows how completely Krishna is watching the field, not just the obvious dangers but the hidden ones, the ones flying in from directions no one else is looking. It also shows that Ashwasena's old hatred, carried for years in a quiver, still could not reach past Krishna's attention. The duel between Karna and Arjuna on day 17 is the fight the whole Mahabharata has been moving toward since the day Karna walked into the tournament at Hastinapura and matched Arjuna in front of everyone and the crowd went silent. 2 chariots face each other on the field. Shalya holds Karna's reins. Krishna holds Arjuna's. The armies on both sides pull back without being told to. The gods come out to watch from the sky. This is the moment everyone knew was coming. Karna shoots first. His arrows hit Arjuna's armor. Arjuna shoots back and opens a wound on Karna's shoulder. They circle each other. They use divine weapons. The sky above them fills with light and fire and sound. Karna's arrows are powerful and precise. Arjuna's are fast and relentless. Shalya keeps speaking from the chariot seat and Karna keeps having to pull his focus back. Krishna speaks too, not to wound but to steady. He says 1 or 2 words at the right moment and Arjuna's hands settle. The duel goes on through the afternoon. Both men show everything they have. The field around them is still. Soldiers who have been killing each other all day stand and watch. This is not strategy anymore. This is 2 warriors who have waited years for this moment finally meeting in it. But fate is not watching neutrally. The curses that Karna has been carrying since long before this war are beginning to move. He is fighting his best but the ground beneath him has already been prepared by other hands. Karna's end does not come only from Arjuna's arrow. It comes from 3 separate curses that were laid on him at 3 different points in his life and that all arrive together on the same afternoon like depths called in at once. The first curse came from Parshuram. Karna wanted to learn the highest weapons from the greatest teacher alive. Parshuram only taught Brahmins. Karna told him he was a Brahman. He learned everything Parshuram had to give. Then one day Parshuram was resting with his head in Karna's lap and an insect bored into Karna's thigh. Karna did not move because he did not want to wake his teacher. The blood ran warm and slow. Parshuram woke and saw it and understood immediately. A Brahman would have cried out in pain. A Kshatriya, trained from childhood to endure, would have stayed still. He asked Karna who he really was. Karna could not lie to his teacher's face. Parshuram cursed him. He said, "The knowledge you learned from me will leave you at the moment you need it most." In the duel with Arjuna, the mantra for the Brahmastra goes blank in Karna's mind. He cannot call it. The curse has arrived. The second curse came from a Brahman whose cow Karna killed by accident during a hunt, a stray arrow in poor light. The Brahman did not want to hear about accidents. He was poor. The cow was everything. He cursed Karna and said his chariot wheel will sink into the earth at the moment he fights for his life. On the afternoon of day 17, in the middle of his duel with Arjuna, the wheel goes into the mud. Karna jumps down to lift it. He cannot. The ground holds it. The curse has arrived. The third loss came from Indra. Before the war, Indra, who is Arjuna's divine father, came to Karna disguised as a Brahman and asked for a gift. Karna never refused a Brahman anything. Indra asked for Karna's natural armor and earrings, the kavach and kundal that Karna was born wearing, his divine protection from birth. Karna cut them from his own body and gave them away. He received the Vasvi Shakti in return, a dart that kills whatever it hits. But he used it on Ghatotkacha on the 14th night to save the Kaurava army. It can only be used once. Now there is no armor and no Vasvi Shakti. The protection is gone. 3 curses. 3 losses. They all land at the same time on day 17, and Karna stands in the mud trying to lift a wheel with no armor on his body and no Brahmastra in his memory and Arjuna's bow pointing at him from 20 yards away. Karna's wheel is in the mud and he cannot pull it free. He climbs down from the chariot and puts his hands under the rim and pulls. Nothing moves. He looks up at Arjuna across the short distance between them and says, "Wait." He says a warrior does not attack a man on foot. He says, "Give me a moment to free my wheel, and we will finish this the right way." There are rules. Both of them know the rules. They were taught the same rules by the same teacher. Krishna speaks from Arjuna's chariot. His voice is even and clear. He says to Arjuna, "Shoot now." He reminds Arjuna of Abhimanyu in the Chakravyuha, surrounded by 6 warriors who forgot the rules when it suited them. He reminds him of Draupadi in the assembly hall, of every moment when the rules were set aside by the people who are now asking for them to be honored. He says, "The time for waiting has passed." Arjuna draws the bow. He shoots. The arrow takes Karna's head cleanly. Karna falls. The sun is going down at that exact moment, and the light on the field changes. Karna's body lying there catches that last light, and for a moment it shines. The Kauravas see it, and the remaining fight goes out of them. They break and run. The Pandavas shout, but Arjuna does not shout with them. He stands in the chariot and looks at what he has done, and feels the grief of it alongside the necessity of it. He knows Karna was brave. He has always known it. The death is right and it is also terrible, and the Mahabharata does not ask you to choose between those two things. Before the war, Krishna went to Karna. He told him plainly, "You are Kunti's son, the eldest Pandav, and if you come to your brother's side now they will give you everything. You will be king. Draupadi will be your wife. The 5 Pandavas will follow you. Everything Duryodhan promised you but could not fully deliver, your brothers will give you freely." Krishna meant every word. He was offering Karna the life he should have had. Karna listened to all of it. Then he said no. He said he knew now who his mother was. He had suspected it for a long time. But Radha nursed him. Adhirtha taught him to be a man. Duryodhan stood up in a crowded tournament and gave him a kingdom when every other person in that hall was busy deciding he was not good enough to compete. He would not repay that by switching sides when the war turned difficult. He told Krishna that he would not fight for the Pandavas. But he told him about his promise to Kunti. 5 sons will remain. Kunti's meeting with Karna by the river did the same thing from a different direction. She cried. She said she was sorry for what she did, for placing him in a basket, for all the years he grew up not knowing. Karna felt the weight of that apology and carried it. But he told her what he told Krishna. "Radha is my mother. I will not leave Duryodhan." He said it gently because he is Karna, and that is how he does things, even the hard things. Both conversations broke something in him that did not heal before he died. He went into his 2 days of command knowing he was fighting his own brothers and chose to fight them anyway. That is the size of his loyalty and the size of his pain. After Karna dies, Kunti tells her sons the truth. She tells them the warrior who lay down his command over those 2 days to spare 4 of them, the man they killed, was their eldest brother. The Pandavas go quiet in a way that is different from the quiet of battle. Yudhishthir feels the truth of it move through him and he breaks. He weeps openly. He says he killed his own brother without knowing, and the not knowing does not make it better. It makes it strange and wrong in a way that clean grief cannot fix. He curses women who keep secrets, speaking from raw pain, and the words come out harder than he means them. Then they perform Karna's last rites themselves. Yudhishthir pours the water. The brothers stand around the fire and offer rice balls for the soul. Brahmans chant. Karna's wealth is given to Brahmans in his name. They give him the full rights of a brother because that is what he was, and that is what he deserved. This is the Pandavas at their best. They have just won the hardest 2 days of the war, and they spend the evening honoring the man who fought to kill them and was their blood all along. Yudhishthir performs the final rituals. As the eldest living brother, he has the right and he takes it. Kunti stands beside him and guides the ceremony. The rites are done fully, with mantras and water and fire and offerings, the same rites any son of Kunti would receive. The brothers stand around the flames, and the smoke rises, and they say the name Karna and mean it as a brother's name for the first time. It comes too late. That is one of the things Karna Parva leaves you with. The recognition came too late. The rites are right. The timing is not. And the Mahabharat does not pretend otherwise. Karna Parva is the most emotionally complex section of the war books. It carries a grief that is different from the grief of the other Parvas because Karna is not the villain of this story and the book never pretends he is. He is a man who was placed on the wrong side of a just war by a combination of circumstances he did not choose and loyalties he refused to abandon. He fights for the wrong cause with the right character, and that combination is what makes his end so hard to sit with. The book teaches that birth does not make a hero. Actions do. Karna is called a Sutaputra his whole life, son of a charioteer, low-born, not good enough. He proves with every day of his life that none of those labels mean anything. His generosity, his courage, his loyalty, his keeping of promises even when keeping them destroys him, all of it is noble. In the truest sense of the word. He is more genuinely noble than many people in the epic who were born into palaces. It also teaches what promises cost. Karna keeps his word to Kunti and his word to Duryodhan, and both of those promises together shape every moment of his final 2 days. He spares the brothers he was supposed to kill. He watches his sons die. He fights with a charioteer who is trying to break him from the inside. He goes into his last duel carrying 3 curses and facing the one opponent he has waited his whole life to fight. He does all of this with his head up. That is Karna. Karna Parva sits near the end of the war books, coming after Drona Parva and before Shalya Parva. With Karna's death, the Kaurava cause loses its last real hope. Bhishma fell and the army grieved. Drona fell and the army shook. Karna falls and the spirit goes out of them entirely. What follows is the final collapse, Shalya's brief command, Duryodhan's last stand, the end of everything. But Karna Parva does something none of the other war books do quite as directly. It makes you question who the tragedy really belongs to. The Pandavas win. They are on the right side and they win. And yet the book ends with them standing around a funeral fire performing rites for a brother they never knew they had, a brother who spent his whole life being told he was not enough and proved every day that he was more than enough, and who died in the mud trying to lift a chariot wheel while the curses of other people's anger settled on his shoulders one by one. The war is right. The killing is necessary. Karna's death is both of those things, and it is also a loss that the Mahabharata carries with it all the way to the end. This essay is part of the Deep Thoughts series on Mahabharat.at, exploring the Mahabharat's most difficult moral questions, its characters, their choices, and what those choices mean for us today. Read the full essay and discover more at https://mahabharat.at.